In our recent Perfect Weapon series, we have talked about the ultimate door car, at least my opinion of it. We've talked about the argument of dragsters versus door cars. Today we're going to talk about dragsters. Like, what is the ultimate dragster? What is the perfect weapon of choice if you're going the long, skinny route? How fast should you go? What should some of the characteristics of that car be? Now this one, for me, like while on the door car side, we can go a lot of different directions. This one, at least in my opinion, it's a little more cut and dry. You can make a lot of arguments for the ultimate door car. Justifiable arguments at that. On a dragster, at least in my opinion, I can sum it up real quickly. The faster, the better. I mean, I guess that there are limits to that statement, but there was a time when I thought, like, yeah, faster is better up to, like, 450. You get going much faster than 450. It gets really track sensitive, da-da-da-da. And then guess what? Like, Kevin Brandon rolls out and starts winning everything, dialed like 437. So then I thought, okay, well, the limit's like 430. Like the faster you go, the better, but you can go too fast. And then Travis last year goes 408 and wins the freaking SFG $500,000, right? Like, seemingly, my point is, seemingly every time that I think there's a limit to how fast you can competitively go in a dragster, someone just blows through it. And the idea that a high-powered dragster is harder to get down a questionable racetrack than a slower, lower-powered dragster, that idea is a myth. Like, let's just dispel that right now. How do I know? Like, I used that argument for years to justify not investing in a bigger motor. Keep in mind, I raced for a living for years, a decade plus. Basically that entire time going 480s. Now, granted, 480 wasn't slow 15 years ago, like it kind of is today, but it wasn't fast. I was mid-pack, and I didn't see the value in going faster. When I finally bit that bullet and started going for 50s, say, that's about as fast as I've competitively been in a dragster. When I started doing that, guess what? It was the best car I'd ever owned. I'll take it back to 2018, the OG Million in Montgomery Motorsports Park. I got a front row seat to this because I was out early, right? I got to pay a lot of attention. But that race, that season, it got late. It got cold. It's the year Verdi won, right? It's the year Verdi won. He had won Vegas early in the year. He ended up winning the OG at Montgomery as well. But it was late at night. It was cold. It was dewy. It was very typical Montgomery that time of year once the sun went down. And there were still like 40 cars left. And at that point I called it. I said, there was in a group of racers. I said, there are 2 cars left that I would most want to be in at this time for this race, given these conditions. One was the truck that Tez Powell was driving. It was going like 640s. It transferred weight like crazy. It did wheelies. It looked like it would hook in the staging lanes. And the other was a dragster driven by the late Laramie Reed. And he was dialed like 440s. And at that time, 440s was one of the fastest cars there. And I said that, and the group of racers that I was with, they looked at me like I was crazy. Like, why would you want a dragster going 440s? The track is obviously not optimal. My argument here is, again, the fast dragster, the power of the motor simply drives the tires into the racetrack. The torque of that overpowered dragster helps create traction, not just on the starting line, but all the way down the racetrack. It is easier to be more consistent in a dragster with more power. Now, that's not to say that you can't win going slow. People do it all the time. That's not to say that bracket racing is and should be dominated by the cubic dollar. Obviously, as we all know, it costs more to go fast. But this discussion is all centered around the ultimate weapon, the perfect weapon. In a dragster, give me all that smoke, baby. All that smoke. Let's dial 430, maybe quicker. I don't want to put any limits on this. I've told you I've gotten in trouble for putting limits on it in the past. Give me all the smoke. Let's go as fast as we can go.